Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. It is April 20th, Monday, and I am Dr. Zach Long. I am going to be your host today. I'm also trying to get us live on Instagram at the same time. So I'm excited to be joining you. Typically, I'm only joining on Fridays, Fitness Athlete Fridays. Every now and then I'll do a Leadership Thursday. And it's kind of rare that I get to get on Q&A Monday. So I'm excited to be doing this one today. In answering two questions that I thought were pretty good, that hopefully will give you some insight into my thinking business-wise, as well as my thinking clinically. Before we dive into these two questions, we do have a couple of courses coming up that I want to mention. Both Fitness Athlete online courses are starting up the weekend of April 26th, and we do have some spaces still available to hop in there. So check those out if you want to get better at working with fitness athletes or any individual that needs loading and more progressive exercise prescription. We also in May have our persistent pain comprehensive management, older adult courses, and fitness athlete pregnancy and postpartum courses starting up in May. So check those all out on ptonice.com. We also have a couple of really great resources coming at you right now while things are kind of slowed down in the world. Our Justin Dunaway has put together a 3-part video series on how to better communicate with people dealing with persistent pain that you can find at www.bit.ly/pain series. And Alan has also put together a 6-hour continuing education course on exercise, testing, prescription, and nutrition knowledge for you that you can get for only $30. You get 6 CEUs and 6 hours of coursework. I'm currently going through his coursework here. It is excellent. I'm actually learning a lot, so I'm really glad he put that together for us. And you can find that on ptonice.com. All right, let's dive into the goods now. So 2 questions. We're going to start with business question because business is what really kind of gets me excited these days. And so I kind of want to start here. The first question asked, as an entrepreneur, what are some of the biggest lessons and takeaways that I've learned in the last year? So the last year for me has been a year of exponential growth as far as business stuff is concerned. Just almost exactly a year ago, I put in my notice at my former employer that I was going to be leaving to open up Onward Charlotte and Onward Physical Therapy, which are 2 companies that I own with Jeff Moore, the CEO of ICE, and Jordan Berry, another faculty member of ICE, where we're building a network of out-of-network clinics that kind of all support each other and are helping each other grow a little bit quicker. So we currently have Onward Charlotte open up, and we've got several more that are going to be opening up here this year that we will be announcing more details about very shortly, hopefully. And in addition to that, I've had my own personal business, the Barbell Physio, that has seen a year of just fantastic growth, and I'm incredibly excited for where that continues to go and the numbers that we continue to see growth-wise happening there. So I've been able to learn a lot in the last year. It's probably been the biggest year of business growth for me, not just in terms of numbers of businesses that I own or income from those businesses or sales from those businesses, but in terms of how much I have learned. And so I want to outline the 5 biggest things. And it was kind of hard to narrow it down to 5 things. Kind of keep a couple of them pretty broad to grab a couple of little things that I've learned. And I hope it gives you some insight into different things to think of, whether you are a business owner or not a business owner. I think these will translate to a lot of you. The first and probably the biggest lesson I've learned this year is the importance of really quickly figuring out what motivates the people who work for you or that work with you. And, this is something that we all kind of know, but it's something that I have not worked hard enough in figuring out until this year. And I'll give an example of how this has worked out for me. So I had one of my contractors was set to get a certain amount of money per month as basically a retainer for the amount of work that he was doing for me. And eventually I felt like we had the potential for him to do significantly more in the business to make us grow. And I felt like that retainer was holding him back from being able to grow. And as I started to have some discussions with him, not even around that concept, he kept saying things to me that really made me think, I think this is somebody that is going to be very incentivized to work when he has more skin in the game. And some people are going to value the security of a set amount of money coming in per month. That's my wife. I'm quite the opposite of, I don't want that security. I want the ability for when I do more work to have the ability for that to reap financial benefit for myself. So I'm somebody that does not care for security. I'm somebody that cares for reward for my hard work. And that is how this person was as well. And when I switched him from having a set amount of money per month to getting a percentage of what came into the company, the productivity that we saw from this individual went up significantly, because he saw that the writing on the wall was that if he worked more, he wouldn't just, it wouldn't be a one-for-one investment on his time. The more he worked, he would exponentially make more money. And so the productivity of the company as a whole has doubled since the month that we implemented this policy where he had skin in the game. So the company as a whole doubled, which has been fantastic. And not only has it doubled every single month, but it does continue to grow month by month. And so understanding that was huge. I have other people that are in my network of businesses that will straight up tell you, like, my goal is to be as good of a physical therapist as I possibly can. Their goal is not financially oriented or anything else. They just are driven to be an exceptional clinician. And I think understanding that's important. If you figure that out in a job interview for somebody, and maybe you don't have the maximal amount of money to pay them, and somebody else is offering significantly more money, but you're the person that realizes that this is an individual that truly cares about being a great clinician, then you word that your agreement with them to where maybe I can't pay you as much, but I can guarantee you 2 hours a week of mentorship, where you're coming in as I'm treating other people and I'm explaining step by step what I do. But the quicker you dial this in with individuals, the more impact you're going to be able to have on them, the more you're going to allow them to be the best version of themselves possible within your business or y'all's business. So dial that in quickly. The second big lesson I've been learning, and I am not a detail-oriented person at all. I'm a big picture person, so this is one that is incredibly hard for me to get behind and really want to track, but I know how important it is for my businesses, and that's figuring out where our referrals and where our money is coming from. So in my online businesses, for example, we run a lot of different ads. So I have an email newsletter for Barbell Physio that has tens of thousands of people on it, and I get sales from that. I get sales from Facebook ads. I get sales from ads that we run on Google. So a lot of different ways that we put money out there in hopes of getting money back. And the more we played with different avenues for finances to come in or referrals to come in that way, the better we've been able to narrow down where more of our money needs to go. And so we waste a little bit less money and we put our money more into those areas that provide a significantly better return on investment. And the more we dial that in, the better off we're doing as a company as a whole. And so tracking that is incredibly important regularly. I think this also is obviously very related to the clinic, where we need to be regularly tracking where our referrals are coming from. And this is something that I saw in my last job, where one of my last company kind of ran itself as a business with a bunch of sub businesses underneath it. We had the overall name of the company, but everybody basically went out and marketed for themselves. Everybody was kind of a percentage-based employee where we all made a certain percentage of our collections. And so you had incentive to go out there and market yourself and get people to come see you. So one of the people I was working with got about 25% of his caseload from a local CrossFit gym. And a couple of years ago, he was regularly going out to that gym and would do hands-on workshops and things like that. And he got to the point where he was really busy and he started to ignore that company, even though it was 25% of his referral base. And what you kind of saw over the period of 2 years was that as he ignored that company, the amount of referrals he got from them went down, and they started to go to somebody else who significantly grew more. As that person was seeing people from the gym, he continued to spend more time in that gym. And so if that first clinician had been tracking where his referrals were coming from, he would have noticed this slow trend towards less and less people from that gym coming to him, and that impacting his finances overall. And he would have said, oh, this is a gym, I need to go touch them a little bit. I need to get in there and do a workshop. I need to spend some time with them. But because he was not paying attention to where his referrals were coming from, he started to see financial negative consequences of his lack of tracking right there. And I think that's something that we need to pay attention to significantly more. The third thing for me is time management. So I own a couple different companies now, or have partial ownership in it. I own the Barbell Physio, I own Onward Charlotte, I own part of Onward Physical Therapy. And so time is one thing that I don't have a lot of. And so understanding how to better manage my time has been significantly helpful in not only managing my time, but being as productive with the little bit of time that I have available to me. And so the biggest way I do that is I understand that I have a certain amount of mental capacity that I can't go beyond, or I'm going to be wrecked and I'm going to be producing very low quality work. And so for me, I always carry around a notebook. And in that notebook, I have a ton of different things that need to get done. And I kind of have this categorized, at least this is how my brain works, to where there are certain things that I need to do that require deep thought and certain things that don't require deep thought. And so basically every day I have blocks of time set aside to do different admin work where I'm not treating patients. And typically the way I have my schedule set up right now is I have half a day where I'm in the clinic treating patients, obviously not right now while we're on quarantine, half the day where it's working on my businesses. And so if I have 4 hours to work on my businesses every day, I kind of have to decide, where is my mind at right now? Am I ready to do that really deep work, or am I not ready for deep work? So for example, on Thursday, I wrote 5 blog articles. And for me, writing an article for either the Barbell Physio or Onward Charlotte, that is really deep, intensive work. I need to be in the mindset where I'm ready for that deep work. And if I'm not ready for that deep work, I can't do it. So I have a list of articles that I'm ready to write. And when I'm in the writing mood, when I'm ready to do deep work, I'll go grab one of those articles and I'll write it. But there are plenty of days where I'm not ready for that deep work. So I also have a list of things that are very easy for me to do. To go and edit some videos, for example, is a very easy thing for me to go do. For me to go work on some back-end tech stuff on my website. That's easy for me to do. It doesn't require a whole lot of brain capacity, but it allows me to still be productive. And so having that mindset of figuring out when I'm ready for deep work, when I'm ready for really superficial work is incredibly helpful for me in my time management. Point number 4 is one we don't want to think about a lot, but it's something that I've been doing significantly better at lately. I'm still trying to build my entire way through this, but the recent issues with coronavirus really point out our need to be able to be better planned for disasters or when things go really bad. And that's something that we don't regularly think about, and it's uncomfortable to think about, but it's something as responsible business owners who have people that rely on us for their income, we need to think about. And so right now I'm basically in the process myself of creating a disaster plan kit where I'm getting together all my bank accounts, all of my passwords, power of attorney, etc. And I'm getting that ready to go for my wife and other people that are deeply involved in my businesses so that if something was to happen to me, they aren't going to be spending tons of time trying to gather this information and dealing with more paperwork than is necessary during an already stressful time to manage these businesses. Even deeper than just having those passwords and those accounts, I'm writing out the different systems that I have to go through on a monthly basis. So on a monthly basis, if I was to pass away next week, my wife has written out instructions on what to do with the barbellphysio.com to allow that to continue to be a source of revenue for her so that she continues to benefit from the years of hard work I put in right there. So I have it written out, and this is the things that you need to do. These are the things that can be postponed or turned off after my death. These are the things that you need to continue to do. And that was not a fun thing to sit down and write, but I am so much more comfortable and confident in my business's longevity and the financial security that I'm providing for my family if something was to happen to me. I'm doing the same with Onward Charlotte. I'm trying to build this stuff out. So if something was to happen to me, my business partner, Jordan Berry, would not be kind of hung out there trying to figure out everything that I do, that he would know how to take over my responsibilities within the company. Also financially, I think coronavirus has taught us a lot. I've for a long time been a big fan of Dave Ramsey, and so something that I've done regularly in my own financial planning as well as business planning is kept money in the bank for expenses. I've always kept an emergency fund, so I have 3 months of expenses saved up for both Onward Charlotte and the Barbell Physio, as well as 3 months of expenses in my own personal life. As somebody that is actually very aggressive in taking risks, For me, having 3 months of savings seems over the top. And my wife, like I mentioned earlier, is very security oriented. So for her, 3 months is not quite enough, but we have agreed on 3 months. And now that we kind of hit this coronavirus scare, that was a big takeaway for me, was 3 months is actually a really comfortable number to have. I don't think I need more than that, but I would not be sitting here comfortable, relatively stress-free right now if I didn't have 3 months of expenses sitting in the bank. So the need to plan for disasters has certainly been a huge takeaway for me this year, and something that I'm going to continue to work on. The last point on this is kind of outsourcing, and I've become significantly better at outsourcing tasks that were taking up too much of my time. I think there are plenty of things we can do that we no longer need to do in our businesses, and figuring out what those are is going to be incredibly important. My role now is to look at bigger picture stuff, is to put out content. It's not to work on tech issues so much. It's not to do low-level skills. I need to outsource that to other people. I have a guy that does all the tech stuff for my website now. I have somebody that does a lot of customer service work for my tech work. I also outsource to different websites. So I'll mention two of them. Fiverr, that's like the number 5 with a second R on the end of it. So Fiverr.com and Upwork.com are two great places you can go and find relatively inexpensive people to do various jobs for you. So I outsource a lot of my graphics work to Fiverr, where I can find people in different countries around the world that have a lower cost of living. So the amount of money I spend to get some really high quality stuff done is actually pretty low there. So check out outsourcing a little bit more to free yourself up for the things that you actually need to be doing within your business. So that's kind of the 5 big takeaways I've had business-wise this year. Second question I wanted to tackle today is suggestions for rehabbing an athlete back to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu after disc herniation, specifically progressing the in-range spinal flexion loading. So I think this is an important one. I don't treat a whole lot of BJJ athletes, but I do treat a lot of high-level athletes, and so I'm going to look at this overall bigger picture, and I'm going to not say so much it's a disc herniation. I'm thinking more somebody that is maybe flexion intolerant in their presentation to me coming into the clinic with low back pain. And I think that's something that we miss a lot is this return to spinal flexion. So Robin McKenzie, creator of MDT, the McKenzie method, has said for years before his death, and the McKenzie method continues to say this, that we have to restore spinal flexion in in-range stages of rehab to those that respond to like repeated extension work. And even though that's been said for years, I think it's something that in the rehab world as a whole, we haven't gone very deep into, and we've kind of forgotten about it kind of regularly. And we neglect that component to their rehab. Justin Dunaway did a great podcast probably a year and a half ago called Cultural Flexophobia. And he basically did a long discussion on how we as a culture and medical system have created a culture of people that are scared of flexing their spines. That was a great episode to go back and read. But this is definitely something that we have to address, especially in athletes that are going to be exposed to this position and in loading in these positions. And in general, if somebody is going to be exposed to a load or a position in their sport or in their life, it is something that we need to address in the clinic. And so in this case of spinal flexion with BJJ, where they're being loaded at those in ranges of flexion, this is definitely something that has to be a component of their rehab. And this may happen in different stages of their rehab, but we've got to be doing it. In general, when somebody comes to me, I don't treat a whole lot of chronic pain or persistent pain. I typically see people with acute pain. And so my goal in somebody with acute pain, or my goals are number 1, obviously to rehab them, to start to decrease their pain. Number 2, to do everything I can to keep them physically active. And number 3, to not allow them to become somebody dealing with persistent pain or to be dealing with long-term poor beliefs around their body. And so I look at myself as having the opportunity to inoculate somebody against those long-term negative thought viruses. And that's my goal as somebody treating acute back pain. And so I really early on, even if it's somebody that is flexion intolerant, want to be introducing them to some spinal flexion so that they are not getting to where they are fully scared of moving into that direction. So you'll very early on see me do a lot of CatCow work. And we're all familiar with CatCow, where somebody's quadruped and just going through general lumbar spine or entire spine flexion and extension. I typically do this segmentally. So we work on moving one segment at a time, getting as much motion as we can from each segment, kind of working from the tailbone. We basically have them posterior rotate their pelvis, and then kind of thinking of like peeling their spine one segment at a time, moving each direction, just to work on having a little bit of motor control in that area. But really important for me in these early stages of rehab for somebody, this is to show them that it is okay for them to flex their spine a little bit. From there, we're going to progress to different things. Obviously, at ICE, we're very big on utilizing deadlifts in people's low back pain rehab just because it builds strength in the low back as well as builds confidence in their ability to move load. When we go into a deadlift, we do flex the spine a good bit. So I do think that deadlifts as a whole are a great exercise for introducing spinal flexion back into the body. But to get more specific on reintroducing flexion, there are two other exercises that I really like to incorporate. The first is reverse hyper. So this would kind of be a progression for me on the CatCows. So reverse hyper, I'm not typically thinking like the pendulum reverse hyper that we see like the crew from West Side Barbell do. I'm thinking like a slow controlled reverse hyper where that individual is again kind of thinking of segmentally moving their spine. So a lot of times I'll do this off of a glute ham developer machine where their upper body is lying over the pad, and then we're extending their legs up and letting that low back flex and extend. To me, that's a great way of building strength in that in-range spinal flexion as that individual goes from flexion to extension. And so that's a great exercise for reintroducing some spinal flexion. And then I do like Jefferson curls for this. We're not talking about heavy, maximally loaded Jefferson curls, but I do think the Jefferson curl is a great way to get individuals just accessing those in ranges. And if they're not getting irritated with those in ranges anymore, this is a great way. Maybe they've stiffened up their spine a little bit into going into flexion since they maybe have been avoiding those in ranges for a little while. The Jefferson curl is a great way to start reintroducing that. I just look at it as a stretch with a little bit of extra load to help get a little bit deeper into that stretch. Just a little bit of extra load, just 1% more on top of things to get stuff loosened up a little bit more. And generally I keep my volume fairly low here, like 3 sets of 5, starting with 5 to 10 pounds, and just having that individual, kind of the same as the CatCow. We're just working on segmentally moving down through the entire spine and then moving back up. So it's also good for kind of a motor control and building confidence in those positions. I do Jefferson curls 2 ways. So you'll see kind of the typical way of doing a Jefferson curl where somebody's holding maybe a 5-pound dumbbell, 5-pound kettlebell, or a training bar. I'll use that a lot. But Kelsey Kramer, our intern at Onward Charlotte, got me doing a variation on that I have fallen in love with. So it's a medicine ball hug. So we basically take a medicine ball and we put it on our lower ribs, and I have that athlete actually kind of flex their thoracic spine around the medicine ball. If you go look up like a Atlas Stone carry or Atlas Stone lift, kind of the way those individuals round their upper back over the Atlas Stone, that's what we do with the medicine ball. And so we've got like a 10 to 15 pound medicine ball. We kind of eat up the thoracic spine motion by hugging that medicine ball. And then we go into that whole spine flexion pattern. And I just find that holding the medicine ball typically keeps people or gets people to access a little bit more lumbar spine flexion. And so that makes it another great way to kind of add a little bit of overpressure going into those in ranges of spinal flexion loading. So I hope that gives you some different ideas for restoring that range of motion in your athletes that need to have good in-range spinal flexion and have tolerance to that there. And I hope the earlier discussion on what I've changed or what I've learned business-wise in the last year kind of gives you some ideas yourself. As always, with these Q&A Mondays, we really appreciate you submitting questions, and please continue to do that so that we can have this Q&A Monday be a great service and learning time for you. Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptionice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.